Good afternoon. It is now 4:30 p.m. and the budget work session of May the 7th, 2025 for the Town of Bel Air is now in session. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Rutledge?
Here.
Commissioner Chismar?
Here.
Commissioner Taylor?
Here.
And Commissioner Chance?
Here.
Glad to have you back, Commissioner Chance. All right, so the first item on our list today is the approval of the agenda. May I have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I make the motion to approve the agenda for today's work session.
Thank you.
All right, go right ahead.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion of today's agenda? All right, Mr. Krantz?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For approval of the agenda, May 7th, 2025, Bel Air Board of Town Commissioners Budget Work Session. Commissioner Rutledge.
Aye.
Commissioner Chismar.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Commissioner Chance.
Aye.
And Chair Edding.
Aye.
The agenda is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krantz. So, continuing with our fiscal year 2026 budget discussion, first we have a presentation by the Bel Air Recreation Committee. So the podium is yours.
Page 186.
Welcome. Thank you for having me here today. I won't take a lot of your time. Dave Coretti, Vice President for Finance for the Bel Air Rec Committee. Our request usually to the town is we believe fairly modest, but just to give you some background on where the money goes, how we operate, some highlights from the past year. I won't bore you with a lot of statistics, and I will bring a presentation next year so I can at least throw these charts up there that I made for myself. Our fiscal year is not complete, obviously, but most of our programs for registration for the spring and summer have either finished or started. So for the past year, for all of our programs, including adult programs, we have a total of roughly 7,500 participants. And of that, about 5,800 youth participants, 1,200 adult participants, and that includes roughly 400 volunteers for all of the programs. Per usual, we strive to offer as many things as we can to the community. We often get asks for certain programs that might seem to be a little bit off the wall, but some that are very different and of interest. And so for the past year, some of the highlights that we have in that category, we have a couple new partnerships for some summer programs with Bel Air Middle School and some of the teachers at the school. One, they're calling it a summer intensive program for Code It, Film It, Construct It. So they're looking to provide hands-on experience to students that have interests in careers in interactive media, coding, and engineering. And then another program with the middle school that is called Encore, and as you would think, it has to do with offering opportunities for people that are, or students that are interested in drama and theater types of activities. So these are, we don't call them camps, they're not summer camps, they're opportunities, and they're open to the greater community in Bel Air, and there may even be a few other participants outside of Bel Air, but those details are being worked out, mainly for the media, because students not in Bel Air Middle can't access computers in Bel Air Middle. But those types of things, people come to us with ideas. We did turn down a summer basketball program because we just couldn't justify the types of activities, the number of participants that were being proposed, but primarily the amount of money that it was going to cost. So we don't take all programs. We do really kind of scrutinize them, but we do have it pretty much an open door for those types of things. Other highlights for this past year, we got our new bleachers installed at Tucker Field finally. So at least now the bleachers are safer, much better for the spectators for the football and lacrosse things that happen up there. Many of our youth programs, many of the teams, some of our travel teams, club teams have done very well. We have a baton program called Applause. We have a couple young ladies that are twirlers that are national champions, and some of them have participated in some competitions worldwide to be eligible for worldwide participation. Festival of Arts is a big thing, big fundraiser for us. It's seems to be always crowded, and knock on wood, we usually have good weather. This will be the first year that it's not the third Sunday of September because there's a conflict with St. Margaret's, and we decided to shift, so we weren't all trying to get that space at the same time, but we're still going to have the event, and we have basically about 400 booths. I think we already have applications for 370 of them, so we're going through that process now. Some of the things that our actual programs have done back to the community is a couple of the youth programs participated in the canned food drive for the Hartford Family House. And then some of them filled some bags with, I think they were primarily toiletry donations to the Kaufman Cancer Center. So a lot of our volunteers try to show our participants the value of volunteering through different activities. Some of our primary expenses throughout the year, yes, we rely on the school properties for facilities, but we do spend our own money for maintenance. So we've done so far this year roughly $40,000 in field maintenance, seeding, baseball fields, so the turfs to dry out the infield so they can actually play games. Some of our big expenses are uniforms. We are looking to try to maybe reduce those costs by actually having a single uniform provider for all programs and having a contract, but just in the infancy of looking into that right now. And, you know, referees cost a lot of money too, so we got to pay those fees. So the bottom line for us is every year we still do our audits through Hayek and Associates. We file our taxes on time. We try to be good stewards with the money. Our request for 26 is the same as the request was for last year. We're looking for $115,250 to offset costs for registration and expenses internal to the programs. That is $13,000, roughly $13,250 more than we received in 25. But we are thankful no matter what, so do appreciate that. So any questions you have, I'll try to answer them best I can. Thank you.
Excuse me, David. Yeah, I mean, you guys run a great program. I mean, I've been involved with it since I was a kid here. I coached through it with all my kids. They all participated in it. You guys run a great program. It's a worthwhile endeavor. You know, it teaches kids a lot of skills and a lot of life skills. But I would think it's like all about teamwork and things like that. So I fully support your program and do whatever we can to get your funds and keep your program healthy. One of the things I would ask you, you brought up about uniforms and all, trying to get a single to help save with that. I remember back in the days where they used to have sponsors. You can put even little patches on their thing. Has that ever been looked at?
Yeah, good question, and thank you for the kind comments. So the sponsorship, the challenges with the sponsorship is having that uniform literally across all the programs, because a lot of sponsorships are based on parents in that program because they might have connections to get a sponsorship. So we have not done a lot towards trying to find universal sponsorships as of yet, but individual programs have had sponsorships or donations at the very least. But something that we should look into more, and I'll take that under advisement, but like for basketball, we've gone away from multicolors for multiple teams. We just have reversible jerseys now. So one team's white, one team's blue, and that's it. Everybody has a blue and white reversible jersey, so, you know, saving costs in that regard. As you probably expect, football uniforms cost the most. And I don't know if you've seen youth baseball yet, but if you don't have all the bling, it doesn't matter. So they all want that bling, including the bags with their names embroidered and all that. A lot of that is covered by fundraising for the programs. So, but advertisement, I think, is something that we probably, sponsorship, is something we should continue to look into.
Right, because I just remember when in Little League we had uniforms, and I believe we used to have a patch with the sponsor on it. You know, so it was the same uniforms or whatever. And I know things are printed now and all that, besides patches or whatever, but it's just, I don't know. And that's all I mean by a sponsorship.
Yeah.
So like they can put a name on it.
Understood.
A little circle on their shoulder, or a little on the back that are for basketball, which are kind of sleeveless or whatever, but, you know, it could help. help your program.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? I know you have a long meeting. I know we're small potatoes in this budget discussion. I
It's
get
not
that.
that you're small potatoes, it's that you're a great program, so we're not going to.
We have no questions.
So we have no
I do
about
questions.
appreciate
the
that.
good work that you do.
I do appreciate that. Thank you very much. And if there are any questions, Lisa has my email address and my phone number, so just let me know. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much for coming.
But take care.
Thanks, David.
All right, next is a presentation for the Bel Air Independence Day Committee, but I don't see anybody here. Are we expecting somebody? Okay. Well, in that case, we will continue with the detailed review of the general fund expenditures, always a fun thing to do while we're waiting. And first, we have the Bel Air Armory, which I think starts on page 17. I don't know. You're the whole meeting tonight.
Thank you, guys. I'd like to present the proposed FY '26 Public Works operating budget tonight. The agenda is, of course, we're going to go over the Bel Air Armory, town buildings and hydrant rental, Public Works Administration, Public Works Town Shop, Public Works Streets, Public Works Refuse, and Appearance and Beautification Committee. Next slide, please. So on the Bel Air Record Armory proposed budget, pages 23 and 24, what I like to do is just go to the justification pages so you can read basically what I'm discussing, if that's okay.
Is your mic on, Steve?
It is. Maybe I have to talk into it a little closer. You hear me now?
There we go.
Okay.
Turn it up.
If you can go to the next slide, Mike, I appreciate it. So I'm pleased to present the proposed operating budget for the Armory for fiscal year 2026. The proposed budget for the operation of the Armory and Armory Marketplace amounts to $254,460. Maintenance and utility for Armory Marketplace. We divide these expenses between the Armory Marketplace and the actual Armory for various reasons, but one reason is we do get monies back for like electric bills and things like that from the tenants. So a portion of the budget, 16.5, has been earmarked for general maintenance and utilities for the Armory's garages as detailed on page 23 and 24. Whoops, I'm not there yet. And you can see those two categories, 0452 and 0607 are for the garages specifically. 0450 is 52 is utilities for the garages, and then 0607 is building maintenance for the garages. And to combine, they're $16,500. The regular operating expenses for the Armory, the everyday operational expenses for the Armory include salaries and benefits for the events manager and part-time event staff, utilities and overall maintenance totaling $237,960. This year, there are no capital project planned for FY '26, as we've actually been able to knock a bunch of those off the last several years with ARPA money and so forth like that. So this year, we don't really have a major capital project planned. So then Mike, I understand, has one line item that Julia operates for the Armory. And that is
Thank you, Director
14
Klein. I appreciate that. On page 23, line item 1-1400-2029, titled Armory Events for $10,400 is the requested budgeted amount. And I just want to go through that briefly. First, let me say Julia Potler is the Town of Bel Air Events Manager. She schedules all private use of public space in the gymnasium of the Armory, as well as other locations around town. She does an outstanding job, wonderful individual to work with, and is on top of her game. The explanation of the request for the $10,400 is about $6,530 for wedding wire and $1,567 for wedding wire for the May and June of 2026. So that's about a 20% increase per month. but it has been very, it's had a good return on investment, is what I'm trying to say, because her bookings have gone up. As a matter of fact, the Armory is booked all the way through 2025 as of yesterday, I believe. Every Saturday is booked in one form or another, and the wedding business continues to bring in revenue for that particular facility.
Mike, do you know how many couples, what the share of folks who come through Wedding Wire is? Are we able to know that?
I sure Julia does. I don't have that information here, but I can write it down and ask her for some additional statistics as to where her clients come from.
Yeah, I'd just be curious. I'm sure that it's I agree with you that knowing, sort of the monopoly that Wedding Wire has on advertisement, I'm sure we're getting more than our money back in that category, but I really am just curious how much is word of mouth versus online advertisement. I also wonder how many people are coming from, more than 45 minutes away. I've sort of always wondered that about the Armory, how much of a destination it is. I don't know if we can break it down into that much, but I wonder how many folks from, outside the county, let's say, come into Bel Air to use the Armory for that purpose.
Okay. So how many clients are coming actually from Wedding Wire, and how far away are the people who are reserving the Armory? I would think regardless of weddings, I assume. Okay. All right, we'll get that information for you. There is an additional advertisement for Zola, Z-O-L-A, a wedding advertisement, the yearly estimated fee of about $1,400, and then an additional $282 in Armory brochures through our vendor, Alpha Graphics, and then about $600 in miscellaneous advertising, signage, and other event needs is Julia's budget for the $10,000 request. Just a few other notes of interest. I had mentioned 2025 is booked solid. They're booking into 2026 now and getting inquiries for 2027. They're seeing, she's seeing a spike in fundraising groups, schools and sport teams wanting to use the space. There's the new class offering, the Fly Dance Fitness, which has turned out to be very popular its first month, almost $4,000 last month, and anticipating around $2,000 this month, going off on current registrations. It's about $10 per class, but 100 people signed up in April, and so far 55 have signed up in May. And so we'll see how that goes on a month-to-month basis. And then the lecture series this week and next week on Tuesday mornings, humor in music, for example. There's 135 people that have signed up, and interest definitely seems to be growing, offered in fall and in the spring. And that series is made possible through the Bel Air Arts and Entertainment District with a grant through the Maryland State Arts Council. And again, thank you to Julia. She sends her regrets for not being able to be here. She had a personal conflict, and we'll get those questions answered for you.
I recognize all of those wedding sites that she's using to advertise. They just dominate the market. If you're not on there, you're getting no coverage, so good for her. She's done a great job in really upping the wedding desires there.
So, like, with all of that, are we breaking even with the Armory? No.
No.
Because we have, what, 238,000 in expenditures. What are we bringing in? I mean, is it close?
I don't believe it's close.
No?
No, we're not close, so.
I don't have my revenue sheets with me.
That's all right, got it. The budget is 250, let's say 255,000. Revenues from both Marketplace and the Armory, 160,000. Just about 100,000 shy.
Okay.
One of the things I'd like to reiterate, if you don't mind me piggybacking on that question, is over the last decade, there's been lots of individuals who would like to see a return on investment for the utilization and offering of the Armory. And I would just like to remind the commissioners and the audience, it is a community center first and foremost. So it's definitely intended to be offered to the community and the individuals in the Bel Air community, not necessarily at the highest price, you know, because there are other venues that charge significantly more than we charge for the Armory. And the Armory is being utilized. There was one time a decade ago, that people claimed the Armory was being underutilized. And that is certainly not the case as of today, with us taking bookings all the way into 2027. So I would just request the commissioners keep in mind that it is a community center, not necessarily a profit center. And I would appreciate that if you'd like to have any further discussion about it, be happy to do so.
Right. Yeah, I didn't mean to make it sound like we were running a business. I know that it is a service we're providing to the community. I just want, see how close were we. If we're breaking even, I'm great. I don't want to make a profit, but okay, we're still a little under, but that's fine, because it is a nice service we're providing the community.
I will jump back in. One thing that I forgot to mention in the very beginning is please don't hesitate to interrupt me and ask any questions you may have on any of this. I tend to leave out a lot of the details on a lot of the line items because they're just kind of everyday expenses that aren't really that important, and we'd be here for a lot longer if I went word for word on each one. So if you would like a more full accounting for something, please let me know and I'll try to ad-lib that for you all. Next slide, please. So there's our proposed I made a mistake already. It's the 2026 town buildings budget. And it's, I didn't reinvent the wheel on this. I used last year's too, huh? So page 37 and 39. Okay, next slide, please. So the town buildings budget for FY '26 is $538,782, which includes $164,000 for capital projects. Regular, everyday expenses to operate and maintain all town-owned facilities, except for the Armory, total $374,782. This includes the salary and benefits for the custodians, utilities, including gas, electric, and water, and all other routine regular maintenance, including electrical, plumbing, HVAC, carpentry, masonry, fire safety, roofing, and other miscellaneous maintenances to operate the town buildings. So the building's capital, which can be found on page 39, this account includes the following. My office and Kevin's office has basically remained the same for now over 25 years. We still have the same wallpaper and everything down there that we had 25 years ago. So it needs a little bit of a spruce up. So we plan to remove the existing 25, 30-year-old wallpaper and paint DPW and planning offices. Replace the ceiling tiles at DPW and planning offices, as well as the wallpaper and so forth. The ceiling tiles also have been there, and they are not the smoothest ceiling tiles in the world. They're very rough textured, so they collect a lot of dust and so forth, and they look dirty and just dingy, and some have broken because of roof leaks and things of that nature, and we can't find exact matches, so we need to replace that ceiling as well. Replace the loading dock overhead doors at DPW. We have two loading dock doors at the facility. One is basically used for a bunch of files, and also the ABC stores all their Christmas decorations and so forth in one of the loading docks. And on the other loading dock, we utilize for all our street tools, signs, and everything of that nature. Those doors have been there for over 40 years, and it's time we replace them because they're pretty old and starting to fall apart and could become dangerous. Another thing that we'd like to do in our break room, we'd like to cover the floor with a polymer surfacing similar to the bathrooms in this facility. I don't know if you've seen them. They're very nice floor. They're easy to clean, and right now it would just really spruce up and add a different look for the break room down there. We want to replace the roof on the Parks and Rec building. This is a big ticket item. It's $60,000. It's a small building, but the way in which the building was, or the roof was constructed is very difficult to install a new roof on. We have 3 estimates, and the 60,000 was pretty much the lowest one that we have because of the way that the roof was designed and installed. And it's leaking pretty badly, and we've tried for over 3 or 4 years to correct the leaks. We've used 3 or 4 different companies, and we just can't seem to get it. And it's because there's just too many holes that are holding down the, there's a thing that goes around the entire building at the top where you don't even see the roof, and that's all fastened down to the existing roof, so there's screws all throughout the entire roof and trying to find it. So we got to remove that and put it in a new roof, and so we're estimating about $60,000. They're complaining a lot because their uniforms and their equipment and everything is getting a little musky and old, dirty and stuff, so we plan on doing that. And finally on the,
Steve,
I'm sorry?
I know we talked about this a little bit at the very beginning of the budget. Where is this building? Like, what's the address?
The
for this
building is directly across the street from the library. It's a
Okay.
little brick building, it's square, and it has like a brown
Okay.
roof around the top of
So
it.
it's got a Hickory address?
Yes, I don't know
No.
the exact. Pennsylvania, I'm sorry,
16.
Pennsylvania.
Okay, so our own little White House.
Yeah, there's the White House there for the lawyers that face Hickory, and it's right behind that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yep. And if you'd ever like a tour, I'll be happy to arrange one for you. It
Maybe after we
smells
get the
like
new roof
sweaty
in.
socks in there.
Yeah, maybe after the new roof.
Huh?
I said maybe after the new roof.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Sweaty socks, but yeah.
but we've also put in several dehumidifiers over the years, which have helped a little bit, but not great. And
Steve,
I'm
I'm
so-
sorry, if I can add to that, I just want to remind you all that when we went over the revenues, I had mentioned that we did request for Parks and Rec to pay for half of this project. Dave, who was here this afternoon, is aware of that. I had a phone conversation with him. Eddie and I had talked about that, and we wanted to make sure that he was aware of that when he came in to speak. So if he wanted to discuss that with you, he had the opportunity to do that. So there is $30,000 on the revenue side that monies would come in to us to pay for half of this project.
And so they've agreed to do that?
They haven't disagreed
I
to
see.
do that. The conversation that I had with him wasn't adversarial at all. He said he understood. He really didn't go into any details. Just kind of took what I said and went with it. So no yes or no, or
Should have asked
maybe.
him that while I was still here. But okay,
So,
good to know. I
just
mean,
wa-
you felt confident enough to put it in the budget, so
Yes.
hopefully they'll,
Yes,
you know,
so again, I just wanted to make sure, just to bring that back up to you all again, okay?
okay.
Okay, right, so there's 30,000 on the revenue side, so it's gonna cost us 30. Yeah.
That's a pretty big ask to ask Parks and Rec for that, isn't it? For them to be able to cough that up.
I mean, we felt they're utilizing
Yeah.
the building and have for as long as I can remember.
Yeah,
Right, Steve?
forever.
I do understand. I'm just trying to figure out where they're gonna get that money from.
I don't know. I mean, it's a big ticket item for us as well, and we don't use the facility.
Mhm.
So, we just felt that a 50% split was fair for both parties.
Yeah. I understand. I foresee that the money will come from the parents of the kids that are in the programs. That's where it's gonna come from. Yeah.
I understand what you're saying,
Yeah,
Mary.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Well, doesn't Bel Parks and Rec get money through Harford County Parks and Rec?
I believe they do.
Yeah, I think there's So they have
I
multiple
believe they get a
sources, right?
contribution from.
I know, but,
From Harvey County.
yeah. But it'd be nice if I thought it was a 60K, and I was gonna say, hey, I know they were asking for a lot of extra money.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, we're putting 60,000 into the roof, but then again, we're only putting 30,000 in, so, okay.
Mhm.
And
I
while we actually
Sympathize with you, Mary, on that too, yeah.
are talking to you, Lisa, are these all current year revenues?
Yes, they are.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Everything's coming from current year revenues that Steve is speaking of with the capital.
Yeah, everything on this list here, thank you.
Correct.
I haven't gotten a new roof for a while, but man, $60,000 for a roof?
Oh, it's more expensive than my house's roof, and it's all because of the way it's manufactured. I have pictures, I don't have them with me, but I
Mhm.
could show you them someday, and they're,
Or
it's
you
just,
could give me a tour?
not on the roof. Actually, a couple of the companies who came to provide us estimates to replace it, they just send drones up now, and they
Yeah, that would be
look
the
at it
safe,
that way.
that's much safer to do.
Yeah.
I'm just shocked at 60,000 for a roof, and to tell you the truth, do we have estimates or anything for the wallpaper and paint and the ceiling tiles? That just seems like a huge amount of money.
We just kind of guesstimate our
Guessed
best guess by other projects at this point in time. And I believe Harry did go out and get some quick estimates on some of the stuff from our painting contractor.
All I can say is I think maybe I went into the wrong business,
Yeah.
because that is
Well-
a
Well,
huge amount of
hopefully, if
money.
we don't spend it all, then it would just go back into the general fund, but we would like to be over
Right, you
rather
have to
than
make sure
under.
you have enough
Yeah,
money. I
exactly.
certainly understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just agog at the cost of a roof at $60,000, and
And I-
wallpaper and paint for 25, and ceiling tiles at 35. It's
And I
just-
made a promise to myself that I would never remove wallpaper again from any one of my houses, so I
I-
can understand why people charge a
I
little bit
have
more.
also removed many layers of wallpaper in a World War II vintage row house, so
Oof.
I feel your pain.
Oh,
but
the steamer just doesn't seem to cut it.
It never does it?
And finally, on the capital items,
Steve?
yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get Madam Chair's attention.
Sorry.
So, Commissioner Chance, in regards to your questions, in early December, I had both phone conversations and email conversations with Rick Hicks, their president. They wanted to forward fund the roof project, and we reimbursed them. But Lisa and I had a fairly lengthy conversation about the complexities of doing that and what would be best. We offered to Rick that we would put it in the budget and work something out. So, to your all's questions and concerns, they had early knowledge as early as beginning of December of '24 that this would be in the budget in some iteration. But again, apparently they had the funds to forward fund it and then seek reimbursement. Lisa and I felt this would just be the better way for us to split it with them. Each of us takes a piece of the pie,
Yeah.
if you will, and nobody takes a full hit.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And finally, then, the Rockfield Playground Pavilion roof replacement. That's more like it, right? 12,000 for the pavilion replacement. That is starting to fail, and underneath there's some boards that are tucked in there, and they're starting to rot underneath, that show the visible boards underneath that are rotting because the water's getting through. So I think it's time that we definitely plan to put a new roof on that to prevent that damage from occurring. So total capital budget amount is 164,000. Does anybody have any questions with regard to those items more?
The only other thing I noticed, and I know the answer is just gonna be increased rates, but the electric bill has gone from like, 47.54 to like 62.5. That's a huge, huge jump, and I know
Yep.
that's just crazy.
Not much we can do, and then at the same time, we ask them to help us get the streetlights going over at the Thomas Street project, and it's like pulling hair, getting them to do something for us, but here's.
But the bills come and we have to pay them.
Exactly. Yeah, we want to get those streetlights up on that project over there.
Well, they did take care of that street light at
Yep.
the intersection of Major's Choice Drive and Shamrock, which had been apparently a really long-running problem for the community, so thank you to.
It took a while, but they finally got it.
They had to come out
yeah.
twice. I think they came out in the daytime at first and couldn't tell that it had a strobe effect after dark, but it is now repaired. I've looked at it a couple of times.
Okay, next
I-
item.
If I could, may I jump in? Sorry about that, Steve. I wanted to ask Director Moody, because I wanted to be clear about Commissioner Taylor's question. So the $538,000 total budget, that's all out of ordinary revenues?
Mhm.
Okay, so, so even though we break out the 164 as a capital budget request, the source of payment is not out of capital reserves?
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is
Thank you.
exactly correct.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Appreciate that.
No worries.
Mike, next slide, thank you. And on page 126, we got the annual fire hydrant rental. And our town, we currently maintain 304, or Maryland American maintains 304 fire hydrants for us. We rent them at a cost of $164.75 each. Additionally, a property tax surcharge instituted by Maryland American Water several years ago amounts to an additional $5,500. As a result, our allocated budget for fire hydrant rentals in town stands at $55,584. Any questions on that?
What's the property tax surcharge?
Lisa?
What you-
She did a lot of investigation on this, to go to her.
So when we had the whole impound with Maryland American, they
Right.
have to keep up with their annual cost of that. So when they are short to pay their additional property taxes, they add a property tax surcharge onto the Maryland American bill, which includes this one. So it's not only our water bills or all of your water bills, it's also the hydrant bill. Now, it does fluctuate slightly. They do an analysis every year and tweak it. But with this, the annual amount is, fairly substantial, because we're paying, $50,000 for a hydrant. So it really kind of smacks you in the face a little bit more than a water bill maybe at one of our parks that we're only paying $11 a month for. So it's just an analysis that they do every single year to make sure that they're
Okay.
covering their costs with the changes in the property taxes on the impound project.
Okay. Thank you. Yep, I just wanted to understand why we're getting a surcharge or a property tax thing.
I totally understand, and Steve's right. When we first saw this on our bills, we were getting calls from residents, even though they're not our bills, they're Maryland American bills, wanting to know, because it had property tax surcharge on it, so everybody thought it was us that was doing it.
Right.
This came as a total surprise to us. We were blindsided by this the very first time it showed up on the bills. So every year we ask them for, to just kind of give us a heads up when it's going to be more of an increase than maybe they anticipated.
Okay,
So
Thank you.
better communication.
right, thank you.
So not related to money, obviously, this is one of my pet projects is with Steve as well. A few years ago, before the change of administrations, they did not maintain the hydrants very well. Rusted hydrants, not painted hydrants, steamer connections were stuck, unesthetically appealing to the communities. New administration came over, Steve and I have stayed on top of them with, anytime we see a hydrant that's in disrepair, we ask them to fix it immediately, because you can have a beautiful home and a rusty hydrant out front really takes away from the aesthetic quality of the home, not to mention the fact that the firefighters can't access it in the event of a fire. So they do
And that
them,
really takes away from a beautiful home.
it really does.
That was my bigger concern.
So they don't do all 304 hydrants at one time, but they certainly maintenance them throughout the year. And if we see one that's in need of some TLC, we bring it to their attention and they fix it fairly rapidly.
Yep. And like you said, Eddie, they've been doing a much better job at that in the last couple of years. Any more questions on hydrants? Mike, please. Now we get into the Public Works Administration budget, and go to page 156 to 158. This is where it all happens. Okay, next slide, Mike, is, oh, you got it. In FY '26, the proposed budget of $1,333,926 includes the salaries and benefits of the administrative department. Additionally, the proposed administrative budget covers the various everyday administrative expenses incurred by the Public Works Department. Another significant component of the administrative budget is the MS4 Stormwater Management line item, as detailed on page 157. For FY '26, we have allocated $85,000 to this category. It's worth noting that this item is financed through the Stormwater Funding MOU with Harford County. Presently, we have achieved a treatment level of about 24.2% of our baseline 668 acres. So we're doing very good with this initiative of MS4 Stormwater Management. You might notice that the cost of this line item has gone down from, I believe, 130 to 85 this year. And it caught me off until Lisa reminded me that the majority of the funds from this go to pay for Josh Polites, our environmental engineer, who handles the stormwater management every day. So we take that money from Harford County and it pays his salary. A portion of it, a good portion of it, right? 75%. One additional line item, of course, is a mowing contract listed as item 14810364. This involves the engagement of a mowing contractor, which is JD Lawn Service, to maintain the larger parks and grounds with an annual cost averaging around $40,550. So that's about it for the admin. Any questions? A lot of the other stuff, telephone, testing and physicals for the guys, uniforms and safety
Yeah.
boots for the guys.
The, one question on 031, the building inspections,
Yes.
but that line, I mean, it's not a lot, it's 35,000, but what drives that? This is,
What-
this is what, this item is for you,
This line item is to pay for building inspections to Harford County. So when Harford.
for town projects?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. So for example, as you'll see, it increased this year because we figure that we're going to get several new properties like Standard on Bond and so forth. So they'll be doing a lot more permitting, a lot more inspections and so forth. So that will run up that charge. We collect those monies for the permit and then pass it through to Harford County. In addition to having more projects, you know, adding more homes to the town, Harford County recently, as you know, with the change of our fee structure, has increased those fees pretty
Right.
largely the last year.
so this basically becomes a net sum, you know, a zero-sum game, because the developers and the homeowners are gonna pay
Yeah.
the 35, we're just passing it through.
Yes. We have a very small portion
Yeah.
of it, but the majority, 90% majority goes right through the Harford
Okay.
County
Got it.
to pay for those inspections and so forth. So like, if the mall were to start building their apartments or something like that next year, you'll see that number probably increase because it's going to be a lot more units, so it'll be a lot more inspections, so.
But that would accompany with a lot more revenue coming in on the other side, right?
Absolutely, it'll be a wash. Yep.
Right.
Any other questions on the administrative budget? Okay. Next one is the proposed 2026 town shop budget, pages 165 to 156. These are my three geniuses who work in the shop every day and maintain the equipment that we all rely on every day. It's Matt and Jordy and gosh, I can't even remember his name right this second. Unbelievable. Hunter, sorry about that. Next slide. Okay, so in FY '26, the proposed shop budget includes the operational and maintenance expenses for approximately 70 vehicles and over 60 pieces of equipment totaling $543,680. Within this budget, provisions are made to cover the expenses associated with the 3 employees in the shop department, ensuring adequate staffing for efficient operations. On page 165, and 166 in your budget books, you'll find various account items, including expenditures for gasoline, diesel, supplies, repair parts, and vehicle and equipment repairs. These line items are integral to sustaining the operational efficiency and longevity of our vehicles and equipment. One thing you won't find in there is, and Chuck probably already went over, he has a budget for all the pieces of equipment and stuff for his police cars, but we actually do the work for those. So if they need like oil filters and air filters and new brakes and tires, the police department pays that out of their budget, but we do the actual manual labor.
Steve, can I ask a question about the gas and the diesel?
Yes, sir.
So I see under gas for the this current fiscal year 2025,
Mm-hmm.
which is not yet completed, so most of the numbers in the actual are far below the appropriated. We're actually significantly above the appropriated for gasoline
Yeah.
in this fiscal year. So is that a usage issue? Is that a rate issue? What's going on there?
I think it was a supply issue on the first week of the new year, and our tank was kind of low, and it's a 2,000-gallon tank, and I think they topped it off on that day. It just happened to be, in that first week, the highest cost of gasoline for the whole year so far. The price was up a little bit when they
Okay.
topped us off that time. And that's what thrown, because when I saw it, I was the same way. I was like, who's using all the gas back there, you know? Like, have we changed our fleet from mostly diesel to gas? And they're
Right.
like, no. So,
Okay, and so similarly, actually for diesel, actually the opposite question for diesel, I notice a pretty significant drop-off in the request there. So again, is that usage or is that rate?
rate.
Rate,
The rates are less than what we had budgeted for.
okay.
Yeah, considerably. And it, you know, when we're in November and we're putting these numbers together to
Sure.
prepare this budget, there's a lot of fluctuation between then and now. And of course, July 1st.
Right.
And then the whole following year. So there's a lot of fluctuation in that
I can imagine
line
that
item. So we
gas
just try to
prices
do
might
our
be-
best to
Right.
guess, really.
Among the most difficult things to project, gas prices.
We have a
So,
pretty good idea about the quantities of gas and diesel that
Right.
we use on a regular basis.
And
Of
that's
course,
remaining unchanged.
of course, a bad winter will increase that greatly because you got the big trucks out and you're going up and down the streets over and over and over again. But on a normal winter and with our trash trucks and regular stuff, we have a pretty good idea how much we're going to be using.
Thank you.
Yep.
Interesting that diesel is cheaper than gas. When you go out when you're out and about, the pumps have diesel higher than gas.
We're getting it for cheaper. And
Wow.
Lisa asked me the same question, and I'm looking
Sure,
at
it's
the
not a
bill.
345
Yeah.
as opposed to a 245 a
Yes.
gallon?
So when I,
Do we get a deal?
we do get a deal. We do get a deal from Corbin. I felt the same exact way, Steve. And what I do when I prepare these budgets is I go into the computer and I could run and look at every invoice for diesel that we got and how much it is and how many gallons we got. And it kind of shocked me that and Lisa even called me and asked me about it. You're telling me the diesel's cheaper than the gas? And it was. So, yeah, so it's a good thing.
Makes up for that problem with the regular gasoline, right?
Yeah. And one item I'm going to get to in a little bit here and a little further down, we're going to get a new pumping system that's going to help us really account for how much usage we use, how much each truck is using, and how much individual is using. We'll be able to really monitor that type of stuff with the new gas pedestals and pumps that we're going to get. Okay, so on 1482-0805, equipment capital, and that would be on page 166. This account funds the purchase and installation of a new fuel pumps and pedestals at DPW. The new system will enable fuel dispensing while tracking vehicle and employee usage. The requested budget amount is $35,000. Everything's $35,000 these days, it seems like. This account also proposes to fund the replacement of an industrial-grade Snap-on 84-inch 12-drawer double-bank toolbox in the amount of $35,000. So the total requested budget for capital items is $70,000. Any questions with regard to the shop?
Yeah, Steve, I was, so what's like the life expectancy of these tools?
The tools or the toolboxes?
The toolbox, okay, so this is just the toolbox, not the contents of the box?
It's a big, glorious.
It's a giant
It's a
30
big, glorious toolbox with very heavy doors with really built strong, because the tools in them are probably close to $50,000 to $75,000 worth of tools in there. What they do is they run them out, they can roll them out. The existing one is over 30 years old. The tires on it are all decayed and are falling apart. Some of the bearings in the drawers are breaking down, so they're not sliding out properly and falling out a little bit. So
Hey,
the
that's a
guys
sa-
in the shop requested it.
I
And
think, I think that's a safety problem that you're addressing, because what you just described sounds like working on the farm with a bunch of my grandfather's stuff, and it
Yep.
was dangerous.
Yeah. And
You know, and it's
I've-
like it pays to upgrade for the safety of our employees, and I think and probably the time efficiency of working on equipment, if you're wrestling a giant box with bad tires.
Mhm. When the three gentlemen from the shop and Brian Mullaney, the operations chief, came to me and said they needed $35,000 to buy a new toolbox, I can tell you, I haven't slept for about 10 nights coming to this meeting, presenting that to you. Because I thought, oh my God, $35,000 for a toolbox. But I did get on the various websites for Snap-on and things like this. This is a mid-grade. This is not the top of the line. And it's not something that you can go over and get at the new tool place over there where the Dick's used to be.
Harbor
It-
Freight.
What's that?
Harbor Freight.
Harbor Freight, yeah, this is a nice American-made, very sturdy, and I don't know if I mentioned it, the old toolbox is over 30 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's, you gotta take time and invest in good equipment. We probably manage, what,
Yeah.
$5-10 million worth of equipment on a daily basis, so,
Well, it sounds like it's a good move
Yeah.
to me.
yeah. But it's not every day you buy a $35,000 toolbox, but anyway, I feel confident that it's worthwhile.
Is this the same size as the one that you have, like 84 inches,
This is gonna be a little
a
bigger.
little bigger?
And it has another rack on top too. And another thing that you got on there, these tools are very heavy. You got impact drills, impact wrenches, all this stuff is pretty heavy. So those doors have to be really built strongly and so forth, so.
Got
Well,
it.
On our tour of the rec building, we'll have to go down and look at the new toolbox when we get it.
I would actually like to see the new toolbox. That I know, I mean, I have looked at the Craftsman and the Husky ones at Lowe's and Home Depot. They're not $35,000, but I can tell those drawers would not carry the weight of the tools that you're
Yeah.
putting in them. They
Yeah.
wouldn't stand up to the use that they're getting in the shop here.
Yeah.
It is pricey.
And one thing that I really appreciate as the director of Public Works is whenever I open up a door and look inside, they're always immaculately maintained. There's not just a bunch of tools thrown all around in there. Everything's set up in their appropriate little spot and everything. So the guys do take care of what they have, and they deserve a good manageable toolbox that they can roll out from one side of the garage over to a vehicle they're working on, so the tools are right there.
I think that would be
Yeah.
tremendously
Yeah.
convenient to
And
be
now
able to
they
move that
can't
thing
because there's
around.
tires on the bottom. And you can't get the replacement parts for such an old thing anymore either, so.
It's had a good, long life, and now it's time that it moves on.
Yep. Any more questions on the shop budget? Okay. Next slide, we'll be talking about streets, and it's pages 174 through 178. And this is where we get into it a little bit now. Next slide, Mike, please. Don't need to look at those guys. Whew. So the streets budget is proposed at $2,196,962 for FY '26. A few of the more noteworthy items on page 174. We have tree work by others, and I don't know if anyone had noticed, but we've actually increased this number up $10,000 this year, because every single year in the last 5 or 10, we've gone over, or we've told people that we got to wait until July 1st into the new budget to handle some tree work or take a tree down because we've run out of the budget money. So I thought it's very important that we raise that up and make sure that we have the necessary funds to take care of trees that are endangering the community. Street lighting, this pays for all the street lighting in town, throughout the town. I probably have told you this before. At one time, it was well over $150,000, $160,000 until we changed everything to the LEDs. And when we did that process, we were able to save substantially on our electric bill for street lighting. Anytime we have a problem with street lighting, it's a basic rental situation again. We call BG&E. They come out and do the fix on everything. Traffic control, $17,000, page 175. And that basically funds the purchase of paint for marking curbs and parking spaces, parking the lines down the street, signs, stop signs, and things of that nature. Curb and gutter repairs. When we're doing a new street resurfacing and there's a lot of bad gutter on the street that we're going to resurface, we'll actually remove the curb and gutter and replace it, and that's that $25,000. And you'll see from some years to others, that number will increase drastically or will reduce from the last year, and that's mainly done because the road that we're doing that year doesn't require a lot of curb and gutter work, or the road does require a lot of gutter work. So last year it was a lot higher than this year. Street maintenance materials, this is for the guys that go out and do the potholes every day and make patches and things of that nature. And then the sidewalk maintenance materials, it's up considerably at $60,000, and in that $60,000, that covers our sidewalk cutting program, and it also covers sidewalks, concrete to replace panels when we're not able to cut them. If the invert on that raised panel is too much, they cannot cut it, and we'll have to remove the panel and replace completely. And lastly, snow and ice removal, $34,915. That went down a little bit. And the reason is Hartford County, we piggyback on Hartford County's bid to purchase rock salt. And they rebid the project this past November, and we're able to get a much better rate. I think it was like $7 or $8 less per ton. So we were able to make substantial savings on that. And so that was a good thing. And that's on page 176. Any questions on those little items there? Next slide, Mike. You're on. So 1483-0805, equipment capital. And that must be on the following page. That is 0805, page 176, about two-thirds down. This account funds the purchase of a new utility trailer. The old trailer will be sold at auction with an estimated value of about $3,000 we're hoping to get for it, and the cost of the new trailer is $35,000. This trailer is used to carry around the skid steer, the roller, and other street resurfacing type machines. Another item that we added this year is a new street clock that will be purchased to replace the existing clock on Main Street. The existing clock is in disrepair and should be replaced. The clock is estimated to cost $12,000. We've tried and tried and tried to get the clock repaired. They don't really make the stuff anymore to repair it. It's a very hard repair because you gotta like get up into it, and not a lot of people do that. So we're proposing to get a new street clock there in front of Sean Boland's to replace the existing one. So total requested budget amount for equipment capital for the streets is $47,000. Now we'll get into 1483-0806, which is vehicle capital. And this account funds the purchase of vehicles and some of the larger equipment like backhoes and things. So in FY26, we'd like to replace a dump truck, which would replace existing vehicle number 22, a 2013 International with 15,000 miles. The existing truck is rusting badly and has other plowing-related wearing issues and is ready to be replaced. It will be sold at auction with an estimated value of $10,000, and it would cost $265,000. It'll look exactly like that one that we had in the parade last year. And also, we would like to replace a F-550 mini dump truck that we use to do a lot of the snow plowing on some of the smaller streets in town and circles. To replace existing vehicle number 8, which is a 2015 Ford F-550 mini dump with 30,000 miles. The bed and chassis are rusting badly, and the vehicle is ready to be replaced per the Department of Vehicle Replacement Plan. The old truck will be sold at auction with an estimated value of $6,000, and the cost is estimated to cost $80,000. So total requested budget amount for replacing equipment or vehicles this year is $345,000.
Is 15,000 miles about standard for when you would replace a vehicle of that size?
For a dump truck.
Right, I certainly
yeah.
understand that the larger the more weight that
Many of the days
vehicle
they
has.
are in the
Yeah.
shop and not operating. They're mostly used for snow removal and carrying asphalt. It is a 10-year truck, though, and it has
Sure.
worked for 10 years. And the thing that kills these trucks is the salt.
Right.
And we are very, very diligent to, as soon as the storm is over, get the pressure washer out with heat and soap and wash everything down very good to try to save them, but it still tends to decay. So what we found years ago, Jake, is if we hold on to them and run them for a lot more miles and so forth, you tend to get a lot more, you pay a lot more for repairs and maintenance when you start seeing them fail. They're not as efficient for gas usage and things of that nature. And the money that we get from auction is a lot less.
Sure.
So we're feeling, we run a lot better equipment on the roads now, and we're a lot more confident that they're always going to be there to do the job for us without breakdowns.
And does that 10-year lifespan tend to hold up?
Yes.
We can expect
Yes.
the next dump truck we're going to buy to.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Now we're running into a situation with our street sweeper, and we might lower that down to 8. We currently have our street sweeper in getting repaired, and I believe I heard somewhere in the range of $25,000 for the repair. They're so technical, and so we're thinking about maybe even reducing that just a little bit. The street resurfacing companies always love to buy them, so we should be able to get a good penny when we sell them at auction back, but they're so technical and they break down, and the one that we have now actually had a hole in the water tank, but the water tank is buried within the chassis, and it's a very expensive repair. So we're talking about maybe lowering that. And then we have another vehicle, which is our Jet Vac truck. It's a big truck. It's probably a $500,000 to $700,000 truck. It's been probably 15 to 20 years old, and it doesn't run that often, doesn't get the salt. It's running great. The engine is really good, and it doesn't have a lot of the environmental things that are required now on these vehicles, which makes it a lot easier to operate. So we're going to probably hold on to that one longer, just the way it works out. But we're always trying to evaluate. We evaluate each piece of equipment about twice a year in a meeting, and we have that vehicle replacement schedule, and we'll actually move things sometimes from year to year because one truck will have problems more so than we had originally planned. So, but we're always working on that plan and trying to always use about the same money every year to replace equipment, so we never get into a situation where we haven't replaced a lot of equipment for a long time now, so we need to catch up, and it's really straining on a budget,
We wouldn't want to buy 5 of these in 1 year.
No. And-
The thing to me, the mileage is low, but if it's rusting badly and has other plowing-related
Yep.
wearing issues,
Yeah,
that's a different, you know, you look at the mileage, but you have to look at that as well, so.
yeah. And those plowing wear issues can be much better described by the guys in the shop, but things like the frames are bent, things of that nature are happening there. And you don't want to just keep on driving around a truck that's like starting to break down like that. You hit a manhole going 30 miles an hour with that plow, it'll give you a nice jolt. Any questions on that part? Next slide, Mike. Here we go for the streets that we're going to redo in FY '26. I tried to get everybody's on the board's street done. Just kidding. So 2601, which is Linwood Avenue. This is over in Homestead, Deerbrook Road to the end. There's a dead end there. We're going to do a 2-inch mill and overlay. It's about 60,000 square feet, and we estimate the cost to be 90,000. Maitland Street from Churchville Road to Eastern Avenue, about 38,600 square feet of asphalt, and that'll be about 55,000. South Atwood Road from Baltimore Pike over to Marketplace Drive, 62,000 square feet, $95,000 estimate. Grayson Square is a townhouse street in Major's Choice, first street on Major's Choice Drive on the right when you're coming in. That's 26,000 square feet, and it's going to run hopefully around 45,000. Shamrock Road, 30,000 square feet. It's from Route 22 to Leeway, and that's 55,000. And then we were blessed with a surprise this year. I get a call from Lisa. I think I was on vacation, actually. So Charlie Dawson helped real quick. We got some extra money from the street revenue from the state of Maryland, and they gave us more than what we anticipated, so we were able to throw in Hall Street from Rock Spring Road to the end of Town of Bel Air Maintenance, where Harford County Maintenance starts. And that's a 60,000 square foot project, and it's about 90,000. So we have about $430,000 worth of street resurfacing budget this year, which is great. We're going to be able to do a lot of work. And I can just tell you, going back to this year's budget, FY '25, we just got really good numbers on a bid we just put out. I'll be bringing that before you at the next meeting, hopefully, for your approval. And we were able to have some extra money at the end, so we're going to hopefully be able to do a couple extra projects to do good on, so.
And will the projects be done in this order? Or just when?
You mean, will they start at Linwood, Maitland?
Right.
Not really.
Okay.
It's however the contractor feels he wants to mobilize,
Okay, so
Jake.
it's all one big contract?
It is one big
Okay,
contract.
got it.
Yes, one big contract, and we basically say, I'm just looking here, like, if we were, like that, the South Atwood Road from Baltimore Pike to Marketplace, we might require them to do that at night,
Mm-hmm.
just because the traffic that goes on that road on a daily basis. Grayson Square, all the others should be able to be done at regular times, and they'll just
Now,
say.
South Atwood Road, that's where that townhouse, those townhomes are off there, right?
It's before you get there.
Before you get there?
It's from the auto parts store at the Pike,
Okay.
and you go up to the, to that location there, where you go towards the townhouse.
Just before 510.
Yeah, right before, yes, exactly right. That's where it would end.
Just that.
You follow me, Jake?
But aren't there, maybe I'm thinking of the wrong stretch of road, isn't there a townhouse community on your left as you're going down
If you
South
keep
Atwood?
going, across from that professional building,
Uh-huh,
that's not included in this
that's not
project.
included,
Yeah.
okay.
Because that's where the T is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marketplace Drive is where
Go straight.
Target is, and you go
Yeah.
straight, so.
Oh, I see what we're talking, I see what you're saying, okay. Got it.
Marketplace continues on there,
Right.
so, but that's where we would stop this project, rather than going through to 24. And that's done for several reasons. Of course, the state is talking about building a building in there, and they'll probably have a lot of heavy equipment and trucks and dirt and everything like that. We don't want to spend money to make a piece of asphalt look nice and then have them destroy it, so.
Yeah.
And all this is through highway funds, correct?
And is that the reason, I see that requested was 335,000, but recommended was 430, and that's the reason for that. Wasn't just that Eddie felt like really generous and wanted all the, where he very rarely gives more than somebody asked for, and that did stand out to me.
No, it was a big surprise as far as that I understand, and all of a sudden we got a lot more, and
Great,
you can only use it for street stuff,
correct.
so.
Right.
You
you
can't
know,
use
so
it for
we
anything
had to-
else.
We had to put it there,
Right.
which is good. You can always,
There's
the
always.
more asphalt you can do
There's always
each
a
year,
road,
it's
right.
better you can
Right.
have. We try for 15 to 20 years per section of roadway to last for 15 to, 20 years in that range. So. Any other questions?
Nope.
Now we get into the refuse guys, and that's page 184. There's the gang.
Steve, one other question on that.
Yes, sir.
The curb reconstruction, that's also highway funds, right?
Yes,
Where you put the ramps and all that, okay?
yes. Especially when we're working on roads that we're resurfacing,
Right.
like curbs on those
Put those on those
stretches,
streets.
yeah.
So that's another 50K, so really we're using about a half a million of funds from highway for all those projects.
No, you're using more than that. Your, your highway user funds, on the revenue side are $805,000. So it's not
Okay.
just those two pieces. It's
some more.
street lighting, it's your traffic control,
Got
it's
it.
your snow and
Okay.
ice removal, so there's some other items in there.
Okay.
It's just not vehicle capital, equipment capital,
Right.
salaries and benefits don't qualify.
Right, okay, thank you.
How much was it last year, Lisa? 800? That's a good little pop. I'm surprised at that with their situation. Next slide, please, Michael. Thank you. FY '26, the proposed budget for the collection of town refuse and recycling stands at $1,015,649. The bulk of this allocation, amounting to $763,130, is designated for salaries and benefits, encompassing the compensation for personnel involved in the collection operations. $249,411 of the budget covers the condominium trash and recycling contract. We are under contract with Casella to collect the trash generated from private condominium associations in town. The condominiums generate approximately 1,140 tons of trash a year, which we are required to pay Harford County a $117 tipping fee per ton, or $133,380 a year. We pay Casella $116,000 to provide the dumpsters and service of collecting trash and recyclables.
Steve, it just occurred to me, I know these condos have equipment that our our trucks can handle. They can't put their trash in something else that our trucks could handle, or it's impossible because they're condos?
The condos usually use the dumpsters
Mm-hmm.
because it's a central location rather than having, 30 trash cans in front of a condo building. They have one central location with the dumpsters. We don't have a truck that picks up front end dumpsters.
That I knew.
Yeah.
So the portion of this, like $250,000, that's from the tipping fee is about 133 and change?
Yep,
Okay,
yep. That's just for the tonnage.
right. And the rest is the cost of
The
the
cost of
contractor.
supplying, when people call me and say, can you please fix the door on the dumpster? It won't open and close. And I go out and,
Just out of curiosity, and I'm sure that the number will be loathsome, how much would a truck like that cost?
You
I would-
actually need two, is what Steve told
yeah,
me.
I need two of them.
You can't
and
have one.
We're talking probably about 300,000
Mm-hmm.
in that ballpark. And Then you gotta buy dumpsters.
Right.
And you gotta buy a utility truck to move dumpsters around. And I looked into this pretty substantially a year ago, and I think, and also you gotta buy the dumpsters, did I say that?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's probably gonna be $1 million investment if the town were ever to do it on their own. However, you can see we're spending, how much? $240,000 a year.
Right.
We're spending
So
a $250,000.
If we can keep a trash truck for 8 to 10 years, and we're getting $240,000 or $250,000 a year, in 4 years, you got $1 million, you know,
Right.
you're starting to be able to pay down a lot of that stuff, and we don't really need too many more men to operate it. It's really a one-man operation. We already have our shop that works on all the equipment.
So it's a big upfront cost, but over, say, 5 years, it does, we get our investment back.
Yeah.
Over about a 5-year period.
I would think so.
Mhm.
And then continually
Sure, right,
operate.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, good to know.
I know, because how many households are in condos as total households in Bel Air? Because we're paying a fourth of our refuse budget on the condos.
Yeah.
We had $1 million budget, and $250,000 is being spent on that.
Yep.
So it's like, that's a lot,
Yeah.
just for that segment. I mean, and I'm not saying anything about what type of it's just count the number of households that have dumpsters versus the households in the rest of town. I don't think there's a quarter of the population or the households are in condos.
Just think if we had to pay tipping fees for all our residential,
Yeah.
single-family homes. It would be
So maybe looking at
much,
doing
much-
this,
What?
maybe looking at purchasing and doing this operation ourselves is,
Yeah.
you know.
I had a
The
meeting.
numbers are starting to look
To
like
look, yeah.
maybe it's a
I-
idea.
I had a meeting with Casella recently, because they came into my office to tell me about how they're gonna start raising the prices, and Lisa and I have been working with them back and forth. And if they're gonna go, and then we are piggybacking on Hartford County, and we're still not getting all the answers that we need from Hartford County and from Casella. But I can't believe Hartford County is surviving with the increases that Casella is giving them from what they were paying just a year ago. We were paying $13 every time they would go and they would pick up a dumpster. It's $13 and something cents. I can't even remember. 7 cents? $13.07. So, you know, they go through and we have like, I don't know, 40, 50 dumpsters around town. That $13 every time. Now, they're talking about some numbers up in the 30s, aren't they, or 25 or something?
Hartford County, I'm not sure.
Yeah. So anyway, so if that comes to fruition, then it's gonna definitely be a no-brainer. We were kinda putting it off on moving forward with this, because we had talked about maybe reaching out to Bob Castley and seeing what he could do about that tipping fee. Because if the tipping fee was not an issue, we would not.
Because that's about half of
Yeah.
that's about half of that 250. 133, is that,
And paying $116,000 to go and pick up all the trash for the year is not unreasonable.
right,
It's the tipping fee at $133,000 a year.
right.
That adds to it big.
So Steve, how long of a process would it be for you to study it, you all to talk about it, to make a recommendation or whatever, and then eventually a commission, Board of Commissions approves it, get the acquisition before you're online? I'm just wondering what the lead time between starting the analysis to being able to start picking up dumpsters.
I'm thinking probably 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the main time consumption on that is ordering trucks and have them delivered. They're
Yeah.
about a year or so out.
Yeah.
And then also, it's really funny, when they were there, Casella, I said, would you ever be interested in selling us all your dumpsters? What do you mean? I was like, well, I'm interested in maybe taking over. And you sell me the dumpsters, you just leave them there, and it's like a turnkey. You can't do that. You don't have what you need to do that. And I was just kind of like, well, yeah, I do, but, so that's another big thing is the transition,
Yeah,
taking Casella's dumpsters out and putting our own in. That's gonna take time,
yeah.
but it has to be done within a week. Because people are gonna still be doing the trash and everything. So I'm thinking too, procurement's a big part of it too.
Sure.
We would definitely look at sole source or something like that, not sole source, but, like a source well contract. Hopefully we could find something like that where we wouldn't have to go out into the bidding phase. I got something the other day. My idea would be to buy one used truck and then one good truck. In 5 years, replace the used truck. The one that was brought new would be then the backup truck, and we would use a new one.
Yeah,
And that's how we would get started,
yeah, that's smart, yeah.
Yeah, so I got it pretty much straightened out. The big part would be buying the dumpsters and buying the vehicles.
Right.
And I got a couple guys that I think that I could just say, Andy, you are now the front-end loader operator for the town of Bel Air, and that's what you're gonna do. And it really wouldn't negatively affect our operation. Wouldn't really have to add too many people, if any, in my opinion. I know the guys would probably disagree with that, we need more guys, but I think we could do it for a while.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think Andy would really appreciate that, as a matter of fact, knowing Andy.
Otherwise known as the chief.
numbers, if Casella thinks they have us over a barrel, I
Right.
feel comfortable, and it sounds like they do think that, and they're planning such huge increases, I think we should take a look at it and see if
Considering the
numbers are
lead
close.
time, right? I mean,
Right.
it's like,
I knew the
Start
problem
now or
was the
start
lead
later.
time on the trucks. You can't just go to CarMax
Yeah.
and buy one.
Right. Now, I did get a nice flyer yesterday from a guy named Tom Sales, and they deal with new and used vehicles and things like that, and they have all the vehicles that I need. They're all pretty and white and ready to go. So, I mean, basically, it's just, if we're ready to go, we're ready to go, and we'll just start jumping into it and go day by day and just start planning and just make it happen, So,
Yeah,
I
say
like
do-
that attitude.
Right.
Just like, we'll get it done.
yeah.
I'd say work it up and then work with Lisa about where we're gonna fund it, out of the capital reserves we have, or what, and let's see,
One other, I'm sorry, Lisa.
You go.
One other option that we do have is just to not piggyback on Hartford County's, put out our own bid, which is what we used to do. I would put out a bid every 5 years, and we would get like Hartford Sanitation, other people's and other companies would bid it, like Republic, you see the big blue Republic trucks. Now you got, the guy there up on Route 1, what's his name? Darn it. Anyway, up Route 1, there's a guy.
just past 136,
Yeah.
yeah, on the left there.
Yeah, but now that's Casella.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It's
yeah.
before you get to 136 on the right,
Okay.
Bartenfelder, that's what it is,
Bartenfelder.
Bartenfelder. And then you also got Hartford Trash. So you can put that out for bid and see what happens. That's another option. But you're still gonna pay the 117.
Right,
So, and we really think that if we did it, we wouldn't have to pay that 117 anymore, or the 130 anymore. Because
We definitely would not be paying that 133.
Because we're picking up our own trash in the
Correct.
town and taking it to them.
Right.
So anyway,
yep. I say move out and kind of formulate a plan.
mm-hmm,
What do you think?
I like that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I will say the numbers, while they are challenging, are actually less intimidating than I was expecting. Sort of that million outlay, we're spending $250,000
Yeah,
every year.
Every year.
That's not a 10-year hurdle. So
Right.
it's not easy, it's not an overnight change, but it's a change that seems feasible, and I think is certainly worth it in the long run.
Especially with the increases that we're potentially facing.
That $250,000 could very quickly increase in a pretty, you know,
Yep.
because if someone perceives us as you said, they perceive themselves as having a monopoly, they'll do to us whatever they feel they can. So it might be better to get ourselves out of that position before that hits, or soon after it hits.
Yeah, I'm really looking at the long haul, like what, 5 years from now, what's the commissioners gonna be looking at and look back and, like, this is an opportunity to start to move that forward because, we've got the personnel, we know how to train, you guys know how to train people, you know how to get it done, you know how to handle this stuff, we got a shop, all of this stuff. So we've got the infrastructure, and we're gonna be taking out the people that are charging us their profit, They've got infrastructure, and they're making money, and they've got people on crews, and they're making money on top of that. It's a profitable business. We don't have to run it as a profitable business. We just need to run it efficiently for the taxpayers. So this is where
That's right.
I think we, over the long haul, 5 or 10-year plan to get on this track, the town's going to be in better shape. There will be some short-term, pain, but while we have a way forward, this would be the time to get up and start moving on it.
So I just have a couple things to add. Steve, Eddie, and I mean, we've talked about this at least the last two budget cycles.
Mhm.
So this year we talked about it, I know fiscal year '25 and maybe even '24. So it has been at the forefront of our discussions with regard to the refuge department as a whole. So that's one. The second thing is, Steve doesn't know this yet because it just happened today. But did get a hold of, I guess, our sales rep over at Casella. We had a conversation, because I didn't understand with losing a procurement officer, this is just kind of gone by the wayside, until I could get to it. But the rate that Harford County pays is an all-inclusive rate. So their rate is going to show higher than ours, because we're only looking at paying, from what Steve is saying up here, to provide the dumpsters and the service. In the Harford County contract, so they went out to bid last July. Casella won the bid, lowest price. It is a 3-year contract with a 2-year renewal option. So we were not aware that the contract expired last July. The conversation Steve was talking about happened around February, when we got our January bill, and the rate had increased compared to December. So we're trying to work through how we're piggybacking on a contract where the rate is different, because we're paying something different than Harford County is paying. Now, what I did get her to agree to, because the rates that she gave Steve from, January to July, then they'd go up in July for fiscal year '26, and then they'd go up in fiscal year '27. So that's the 3-year original term that Harford County has. Was a 6% increase, but in the Harford County contract, it's a 3%. I should say it's up to a 3%. It's based on the CPI. So if the CPI only goes up 2.5, that's all the increase is. So she had given you increases that were 6%, and I said, well, wait a minute. If we're piggybacking on the Harford County contract, which we've been doing, why are we being asked to increase 6%? So she agreed with me and said, if I understand your point, we'll keep the similarity with the Harford County contract. So that was a lot more palatable than the 6%. So that will start, we did increase from 1307 to 1385 in January, which was the 6% increase. They gave us 6 months without an increase. I'm not going to go back and talk to them about that. But for the next 2 years, it'll be a 3%. This will be coming before you very shortly. So we will be tied into, it will be a 3-year contract, but pretty much almost a year has gone by because the first year is fiscal year '25. So I just wanted you all to be aware of that, that we will be requesting to sign off on a 3-year contract. So we'll have 2 fiscal years left on that contract, '26 and '27.
And is that the standard contract that usually, I mean, it's usually a 1-year contract with 2 1-year renewals?
No, Alfred County's contracts are 3 years with 2-year renewals, and that's generally ours as well, 3 years with 2-year renewals. Yep.
Does it have any escape clause on like 30 days' notice?
I'd have to go back and look with all of this discussion this evening. I'd have
Sure.
to go back and,
I'd
and-
never seen a
and take a
county
look.
contract that didn't have an escape
Yeah.
clause for the county
Yeah.
based on, doesn't have to be for cause, it's just our budget changed, our priorities changed,
Right.
whatever, they have it in
Right.
every one, it's standard, so.
yeah, so
If
that,
that is in there, then if in 2 years we decide we're moving ahead with our own trucks, there would be an option.
well, in 2 years, you'd be
terminate.
fine, because it's a 3-year contract.
we're
There's only
already at
2
the
years
end of
left
one.
on the contract. We
Okay.
wouldn't have to go with the options,
Right.
which are the last 2
Right.
years to make it a 5-year. So those things I wanted to go over with you tonight because of the discussion I had just this afternoon with her. So she's waiting on me to finalize our draft of a contract. She's gonna take a look at it, and then we're putting it before you all, because we are behind the 8 ball with this.
It sounds like the time that we would have left on that contract after we approve it is essentially the lead time that Steve was telling us we would need to take.
Correct. So I think the timing is right.
Okay.
And even when the 3 of us had spoken about this over the last couple of years, my recommendation to pay for the dumpsters and the trucks was capital reserve.
Right.
I mean, that's what you do.
Yeah.
You don't take it out of operations
Of
because you
course.
know you're gonna get that return back. So you pay for it out of capital reserve, and then you've got that operating savings. Yep, so that was
Okay.
gonna be our recommendation to you all anyway.
So we
So-
just got to make sure, I'm sorry, we just
No,
got to
no,
make
you're
sure
good.
Steve's plan can be executed before the end of that contract. Because we can't leave them high and dry without trash removal.
Right.
Right.
Exactly, and that was gonna be my point. Is this working now? My point was gonna be that they should not be able to get out of the contract either, because if they heard that we were gonna
Yep.
drop them in 2 years, we're done with you now, and then we're caught with our pants down, trying to find trucks to get everybody's trash in a condominium. So,
And just realize that
kind of be
the,
secretive a little bit.
yeah,
I hope they're not watching.
the equipment purchases are gonna have to come in a year, the year or 2, whatever, before we're ready to execute
Yeah.
this. So you're gonna see this still in the budget, and then you're gonna see purchases of vehicles in the budget coming from capital reserve at the same time.
We could take them through the parade.
I mean, there's really no way to make the change without having at least 1 year of the double whammy.
Nope.
That's the
No,
that's the
and
drawback. But as Commissioner Rutledge pointed out, you got to do it because in
Yes.
5-10 years, the board who's sitting here in 5 years will be really glad that we did.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, yeah, we'll dust off the work that we've done here and there over the last couple of years and put something
Yeah.
further together, and
Yeah.
we can definitely have another discussion at a work session about it, once we get our numbers, our plan together for you all.
I certainly have everything still down there in a folder, so we're in good shape.
Great, thanks.
Okay, anything else on sanitation or refuse?
Just that the guys are doing a great job, and we appreciate those trucks twice a week.
So the last item on my presentation tonight is the Appearance and Beautification Committee. I've been with them for 25 years now. Love working to try to make the town better and more beautiful. It's a great group, and they're seeking a budget allocation of $41,265, which is an increase of 5% this year. It's the first increase they've had probably in 8, 9, or 10 years. I can't really remember. I have 9 here. The requested funding is crucial for supporting the ongoing efforts of the Appearance and Beautification Committee in enhancing the aesthetic appeal of our town. This allocation primarily covers the following key initiatives: town flower gardens, the Main Street hanging baskets, and the holiday decorations. The investment in the Appearance and Beautification Committee's initiatives yields significant benefits for our community. Beyond visual enhancement of our town, these efforts contribute to community pride, economic development, and quality of life. And I think, I can't prove it, but I think a lot of those awards that we've won through magazines and stuff have, these flower beds and baskets and stuff along our main streets have definitely helped in that regard, so.
Steve,
I-
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just, as the liaison for this group and meeting with them monthly, I really have to vouch for the incredible passion that everyone who serves on that committee has for Bel Air and for beauty and for keeping Bel Air beautiful.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They really are, they've got a great eye. They make a lot of great choices with the catalogs that they're presented. They are very responsible stewards
Yep.
of their money. As a matter of fact, Christy Sudbrink is probably the most tenacious treasurer that I've ever
Mhm.
seen for a town committee. I mean, she is on their budget always.
Journal entries and everything. huh?
Journal entries and everything. I mean, she has, every month
Yeah.
she has questions that Steve can't answer and has to refer to Lisa. She's on it. So I really appreciate the volunteer time that all of them put in. And I think that this is a long overdue increase. I think it's a worthwhile increase. One of the things that I always hear about people who are new to Bel Air, people who come here the first time, is just how ideal and picturesque it is. And these ladies are no small part in achieving that. So this is, I think, a reasonable and modest increase, and I look forward to being able to support them continuously. You'll notice that most of the increase all of the increase actually is coming from the gardener.
Yeah.
And that's where the meat and potatoes of ABC's mission is
And-
keeping those beds nice.
And you got to realize over those 5 or 6 past years when, the CPI, Consumer Price Index, was up at like 8, 9, and 5, and 4, they were only getting they were getting those raises, I should say, per their contract, because it's all CPI related for adjustment, so they needed a little bump to keep up with things.
Steve, this may not fall under appearance and preservation or beautification, but what is going on at the corner of Gordon, Bond, and Main right now?
That's Flatiron Corner, and that is an Appearance and Beautification Committee project.
I thought so.
That is a project where they recently changed the sign there,
Uh-huh.
and the old bushes that have been there for so many years
Yeah.
and everything have overgrown. They're full of like weeds and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So we just decided at the last couple meetings is to rip everything out, and they're gonna go around and grab stuff from their own gardens that they can separate and use. We're gonna buy a few boulders and just really enhance the look at that area. One thing we gotta do is be very careful, because the state highway still might come in and make a change there. They're kind of dragging their feet a little bit of what they really want on that Flatiron Corner. I hope we have some say, because I think it's a really neat structure in our town. And so we're going to build it in the fact, so if state highway does come in, we're able to remove everything we put into it and reuse it somewhere else.
Okay.
So we're in the process of, we ripped out all the old soil and the
Right.
bushes and the roots and everything like that. We started putting the soil back in, but then we had the heavy rain, and we couldn't find any dry topsoil. So we're waiting a couple days, and then we'll fill that all up with topsoil, put mulch on, and towards the end of this year, you'll start seeing, the end of this month, you'll start seeing some plants and stuff going in there.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
So that is their project, and they're very excited about it.
It needs love,
Yeah.
for sure.
Christy Sudbrink is running the charge on that mostly.
Great.
So they all met out there, I think it was Monday, And, you know, we were out there removing all the dirt and everything, and they were there. Our gardener, Cody, was there, so
Uh-huh.
everybody's getting ideas of what to do, so.
Good, good. All right, thank you.
And Mary, I know I was away when you brought up the ribbon, the brick ribbon between the curb and the sidewalk
Yeah,
all the way
yeah.
down Bond Street,
Yeah.
and how badly it's breaking up and so forth. We are in the process of going for, I think it's Community Legacy Grant. And we're gonna try to get a grant to replace all that, that brickwork in between the curb and the sidewalk. And also, replace some of the beds going down there that are in really bad shape.
Good.
Rip them all out,
Mhm.
get grant money and replace them to make them look real nice and new.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great.
So
Thank
we're in
you.
that process. I know Stephanie has got her hands full on a couple grants that she's got to get out of the door in the next couple, like next month. But as soon as she's done that, we're going to get to work on working on that Community Legacy Grant to get that out the door, and hopefully win it and get that work done. And rather than the bricks that sometimes settle and stuff like that, I think we're going to go with like a stamped concrete, you know, that won't settle and break up and things of that nature. You know,
bricks
just a
were
real
nice.
nice decorative concrete with
Yeah.
stamped
Yeah,
looking bricks.
the bricks were nice, but then,
They-
you know.
Every
and
time they start
Lots of
failing.
tripping and
Yep.
that kind of thing too,
Yep.
so that's great. Thank you.
Okay, I was watching that night and I heard you ask the question. I was like, Eddie, we're going to do that project, so,
Thank you.
okay. Any other questions about Public Works' budget? Okay, thank you.
Julia did get back with me on email with your, Commissioner Taylor, your question. She says that approximately 60% of the wedding business comes from wedding wire. So it's pretty substantial, and she feels that if we would stop the wedding wire advertisements, the standard, you know, social media, word of mouth, and other types of advertisements wouldn't make up for the wedding wire.
I think
Business.
Julia can, if she's watching still, and I hope that she is, can rest easy that there is no appetite for the commissioners to cut that. That is like the wedding,
Yep.
wedding source.
And the other point is she had seen customers from Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and even up in Pennsylvania, but the bulk are Hartford County residents. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
You all want to move on to the outstanding list?
I think we're ready for that.
Alrighty. It should be coming around to you if you haven't gotten it yet.
I think everybody has a copy now,
Okay,
Lisa.
perfect. So number 3, I sent this out Monday night to everyone. I actually did it for 5 years, 20 to 24. Did you all have any questions on that?
I think we're looking pretty healthy there.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, cool.
Well, I'll hit you offline, because you may have already explained that. I don't understand what all
She
these
hasn't,
reserves are.
she hasn't explained it. So, I mean, she probably has, but I think now's a good time. Everybody can benefit.
Oh, okay. There is, just that, on that spreadsheet you sent out about the general fund balance history.
Yes.
It's not the quantities, it's like just the unassigned fund balance. What are the differences between that and like the capital reserve, the stabilization reserve? I understand the stormwater management and, you know, workman's comp leave and the seized property, but I don't understand the difference between the unassigned capital reserve and the stabilization reserve.
So capital reserve is just that, it's for
Right.
capital
Okay?
only. So in the proposed budget, we're proposing to take $758,000 from the capital reserve. So those are the vehicles,
Correct?
the equipment.
Right.
Okay. Stabilization reserve, that is, and it started really, we started that really at COVID. This is really your emergency reserve. So you have a, let's just say a weather catastrophe. You know, tornado comes through, and it devastates, what? I'm sorry. And it devastates whether it's town hall or downtown or what have you. This is the reserve that you're gonna draw those funds from, because you're not gonna have the monies in your budget, right? Because those are just operations. Those are normal, day-to-day operations. So, yes, you may get reimbursed from FEMA or, what have you,
Right.
but just set that aside for right now and just think that this reserve is to use as your emergency. It has to be, there are specific requirements. I don't have my folder with me. But there's like 3 or 4 different criterias that have to be met in order to use this monies from this reserve. So you can't use it for normal operations. It's not meant for normal capital. It's for those unusual, scary situations that, you hear do happen across the country, mostly with weather-related incidents.
So it could be used for salaries, to pay people in the event of a disaster, natural disaster, whereas capital reserve cannot be used to pay people, to pay salaries.
No, capital reserve is just strictly for
Right.
your capital.
But stabilization
Stabil-
reserve can be used to pay salaries, like overtime for people because of the disaster, that's something.
It would be, basically think about it, it's whatever you need to do to get through the incident that is not within your operating budgets, you can use that for. Yes.
So it could be used for products, buying things.
Yes,
services,
absolutely. And
and-
it's there to also help the community. If
Right.
you've got something that came through, let's just say it didn't do anything to our buildings, but it devastated downtown. And we're not gonna sit here and just do nothing. So it can be used to, basically help the community get back on its feet as well. Help us, help fix the roads, sidewalks,
Okay.
overtime with additional personnel
Okay.
that's required. If you've got to have police protection out there because, I don't know, you've got a hole in the building where the police is, just,
Got it.
any of those types of things.
Okay.
So emergency, unusual, and I can get you a copy of the policy if you'd like it.
Okay.
Okay? So that was.
And the other one was the unsigned fund,
So we-
unassigned,
Yeah, unassigned
Speak.
fund balance. So this is not a reserve of fund balance. This is strictly when you have revenues that exceed your expenditures at the end of your fiscal year, and your monies are not going into any of the other reserves. If you remember from Monday night, I had mentioned that some monies went into the capital reserve and into the leave payout reserve, because by policy, if you have revenues exceeding expenditures, the town administrator has the authority to transfer up to, I think it's 75% for capital and 50 for leave payout, and then the rest of it goes into the unassigned. With that unassigned, if you utilized all of your stabilization reserve, then you start dipping into your unassigned fund balance. But your unassigned fund balance is not meant for operations, it's not meant for capital, it's meant for, one-time types of expenses. I can tell you before the capital reserve started, there were a few occasions that we had a major capital project that had been on the books for a very long time. And we just couldn't afford to pay for it out of operating revenues. And again, we didn't have a capital reserve then. So it was considered a one-time type of project, so we utilized the unassigned fund balance for that. It's not something to use on a annual basis, daily basis, not for day-to-day operations. And that's one of the things that I still owe you all is number 2. I've got it halfway done, but not quite complete. is all of the different governmental accounting standards suggest, recommend that you keep a certain percentage in your unassigned fund balance as a total of your expenditures. So, you know, think of it as, you know, some people will say on a personal standpoint that you should have enough cash in the bank to pay for 3 months' worth of expenses. That's kind of
Right.
what the unassigned fund balance can do, but we took it one step further and created a stabilization reserve, just to make it clear that we have a separate reserve to utilize should we need to in those cases of an emergency. I know you can also use the stabilization reserve if we were to, again, not having the policy in front of me, but I know a significant loss of revenue. So if you had a significant loss of revenue, let's just say the state came and cut our revenues,
Right.
which was gonna make it difficult to, let's say, operate the streets program. As long as it met those requirements in the stabilization reserve, you could use some of your stabilization money for that. So I don't- does that make sense, Steve?
So do we put monies in each of the, in those funds every year?
Which ones?
The unassigned fund balance, and I know we put some into the capital reserve, and do we put money in the stabilization reserve every year?
Yes, that's per policy, and there's a formula for that. We put $100,000 in it this year. So if you look at do you have
Yeah.
the chart that I sent
Right.
out? So the
Yeah.
the increase from fiscal year '23 to '24 shows about $100,000. That increase was because when I ran the formula, it mandated that we have 1.547 in the stabilization reserve. So it came from the unassigned fund balance to fund it. So I took from the unassigned and I funded the stabilization reserve. With your capital and your leave payout, that's per policy. So you do twice a year, once during the budget and once at the fiscal year-end audit. Your stormwater management reserve, the policy is you have monies coming into the town from the MOU with Harford County, and then there's that MS4 program that Steve mentioned. So the net difference there, if you're bringing in more money, is going to go into that reserve as well. And then you can utilize that for projects that your current year's MOU monies from the county can't fund. Okay? The seized property reserve, I mean, I know we're only talking 13,000, but that is, again, you've got the police department that are seizing certain cases, whether it's cash or equipment that then gets sold that will not go back to the individuals. We are allowed, once 3 years, I believe, has gone by, it's considered ours. So you have monies coming in, and then you can also have monies going out. So again, it works the same way as the stormwater management. The net difference goes into that seized property reserve.
And what can those monies be used for?
Police.
Police?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
So they can go basically into the police general fund. It could be used for equipment, salaries,
No salaries.
no salaries, just
No,
equipment.
it has to meet the parameters of our seized
Okay.
property policy, which is generally, again, non-operating. 'Cause you don't want to use any of your reserves for operating expenses. Because once you do that, where are you going to get the money for that same
Next year.
operating expense the next year and the next year and the next year?
I like
You
to
just-
look at it as I'm sorry to interrupt you, but as the one-time only cost, not a
Correct.
recurring
No.
Right, it's a
You just-
one-time.
salary.
only.
Yep. Because you're just gonna get yourself in trouble if you start using any of these reserves for operations.
And the unassigned increase is how? How do we put monies into that every year?
It comes from when, if you bring in more money, if your revenues
Revenues,
exceed your expenses at the
expenditures.
end of the fiscal year.
Would go into that, and then, but don't we want to have a cap on that?
There's no cap on that.
Okay,
But you can see that it doesn't, I mean, it actually, went down between '23 and '24. And that's part of the reason is because we had to fund the stabilization reserve.
okay.
And we wanted to put the majority of our money into the capital reserve. So we elected to put the full 75% in the capital reserve. Your total revenue over expense for fiscal year '24 was about $460-some thousand. So 75% of that went into the capital reserve. The balance went into the leave payout reserve to get us to the ceiling of $300,000. And then
Right.
you had monies come out of the unassigned to fund the stabilization reserve. So your net difference in your unassigned was actually a decrease. So it has increased and decreased throughout time.
Right.
If we, because I think, Steve, you're curious about how we can use that money.
Yeah, I mean, if we have,
So-
if our revenues exceed our expenditures, say for this FY, then why can't we use those monies for other projects that we've seen, that we
So-
deem?
My question is, can we, if the
Those-
capital reserve, like, if we're gonna take on $1 million in capital expense soon, and the capital reserve gets lower than we'd like to see, can we
Mhm.
replenish the capital reserve with unassigned funds? In the same way that you funded stabilization out of unassigned?
You probably could,
Okay,
yes. There's no policy on that that says you can or you can't.
okay.
Now I take that back, because the capital reserve policy specifies how you can fund that reserve. That is not one of them. So we'd have to change the policy.
But we could change the policy.
Yes,
Just a policy.
Absolutely.
for- It's an internal
Yes.
policy, right.
I think you would have to make it, very, specific.
Sure.
And not open-ended with that, because that's not something that you want to get in the habit of doing either. I think you just need to put some parameters with it, I think is the way I want to say it. But yes, you certainly, I don't see anything wrong
Great.
with that, as long as the level of our unassigned fund balance is within those recommended percentages from government standards.
So, I mean, why couldn't you, in going with what Jake, you were saying, take it out of, if we have a project, you take it out of capital and then you replenish it with the unassigned, why don't you just pay for it with the unassigned? Why couldn't you pay for a one-time thing out of the unassigned?
Because it just keeps being one time then. I mean, you're gonna take it from unassigned for this one time and that one time and this one time. That's not what the unassigned fund balance is specific to. You have a capital reserve to take monies
Right.
for capital projects. That is what that capital reserve is for.
Right. Well, then, like Jake was saying, then we'll replenish it from the unassigned.
No,
But-
I think-
But by policy, we don't.
No, what I
Okay.
think Jake was saying is, we're looking at
misunderstood then.
taking $1 million for a specific purpose with trying to institute a new refuge project.
Right.
And so in order to do that, it will kind of, I mean, that's a fourth, give or take, of what's in that reserve. So we could take, not $1 million, because we couldn't take $1 million from the unassigned fund balance, that would be too much.
Right.
But you could take
Okay.
a portion of that to just replenish that. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was you were just looking at it as that one-time
Correct,
purpose.
Yes.
Not
Okay.
to do it consistently.
right.
Right. I didn't mean.
Because just remember, your excess revenue over expense, which you do have every year, 75% of that is funding the capital reserve, or up to 75% of that
5%.
is already funding your capital reserve. So you are putting money back.
Right.
And you
Okay.
can see how it's grown over the years, and that's with utilizing some of the capital reserve for this building. So I think that says a
Okay.
lot. I mean, we're very diligent with how we're utilizing that capital reserve, and I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, Eddie's philosophy when we looked at the budget in '25, which is, we can't afford to do these projects, with operations. But they need to be done, because it's gonna cost us
Right.
more in the long run, and they just have to be done. So we have this capital reserve, why are we not using it? And I think, again, we're utilizing the majority of it for our vehicles. Rates are high. It doesn't make sense to go out and borrow money. I mean, that's what we used to do with our
Right.
vehicles and equipment. We would borrow money, but as you can see from the budget, our rates were in the 1%, maybe in the mid-twos. So rates were extremely low at that point. We did not have a comfort level with our capital reserve at that point in time. It has grown, so let's use it, replenish, use it, replenish.
No, and that's part of what I'm trying to get an understanding of, because we have close to, you know, it's probably like close to $10 million in all these accounts, just right here. And I just wanted to know what they can be used for, how do we replenish them? I just don't know that whole process, and that was a good explanation.
Okay, no problem. Okay, let's see, where are we? So 7, I think 7D is what's outstanding on that one. I did get some information from the chief, but I did push back with some further questions. So, so just so you all know as well, while I'm thinking about it, at the last budget session, which is next Tuesday, all of the department heads will be there. So there'll be all of us there to answer any other lingering questions that we may have from this outstanding list, okay? Let's see. Number 10 is now marked done. Kevin got back to me, and he said that no bikes were observed within the study area of the Harford Mall residential transportation impact. He had said that when you do the pedestrian study, you have to tell the consultants whether you want them to count bikes. And that wasn't done. But Kevin also mentioned to me, he said, you're not really gonna see any bikes because you don't have bike lanes for people to bike on it. So it's kind of a moot point with that you're not gonna have the counts, just because people aren't using it right now, if that makes sense. Okay? That's 10, and Kevin can, again, give you a little bit more insight on that. Let's see. 13, it's not done, but I have an update. Kevin spoke to the resident at 414 Giles Street who's opposed to the path, and he did leave a message with the other 3 property owners, so that's still up in the air. 14, Eddie, I think you're taking the lead on that.
Yes.
That's what Kevin told me. So that is still open.
Right, I have a message out to John Carroll for a meeting, just waiting to hear back from him to schedule a time.
So that 18, 19, and 20, we'll discuss that next week when we hit parking fund. Michael is still, I think, waiting on the costs, the additional costs for the election.
I did get some of those numbers. It looks like it's going to be about $7,500, but I gotta break it out into what each piece is for.
Okay,
I'll have it for you.
all right. You send that to me before next Tuesday.
Yep, tomorrow.
Perfect.
Yep.
Let's see, number 22, Jake, you had a question on that. The number 4, is correct. It's $100 a quarter, so there's 4 quarters. Michael confirmed that, for me, so that's done. I added 24, 25, and 26 as I was putting this list together. So the number 24, the active shooter bags, these are actually with the police department, they're gonna be purchased in FY '25, so we have a $3,000 savings in fiscal year '26. So that just needs to come out of the budget. The staff talked about, and maybe Steve, you and Eddie can add some information on this, but we feel like as a staff that we need a porta pot at Homestead Park, and the cost would be $2,500 for the year. You guys have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I could just add, we received several phone calls from the people who play a lot of pickleball over there and tennis. So when they're over there, it's not really a destination playground. It's a playground that people go to play their tennis and stuff like that. So we thought it was a good idea, rather than something like the Homestead, not Homestead, Plumtree, where we do have some vandalism and stuff like that. We don't kind of have that stuff over at Homestead, and we think it would be a good thing to have there for those folks who play there regularly.
Thanks, Steve. And then 26, Kevin did talk about this, I just didn't add it. So based on his current estimate, the cost for the Alice-Ann project is an increase of $19,705 than the $90,000 that's currently in the budget. And then we need to reduce the grant dollars from $90,000 to $84,705 because we need to account for a town match. So Stephanie's recommendation is for us to account for a $25,000 match. So that's the net change there. The addition of the $19,705 cost, and then the loss of the grant dollars of $52,995 gets you your $25,000. So in essence, we have $25,000 more to find in the budget. That's what that means. That's bottom line. From tonight, Michael already got answers from Julia, and those were the only two I had. We know about formulating the plan. I'm not going to add this to the list because we're not changing anything in the budget tonight on that. Was there anything that I missed from this evening that you all want added to the list? Or is there anything that you all have talked about as a group, any of these that you know what you want to do yet? You can share that too.
I agree. We don't need to add it to the list, but I think the biggest thing we decided tonight is moving forward with that, with the condominium trash. For number 4, regarding the increase to the legal budget, I know this is something that Commissioner Chismar and I brought up what feels like a lifetime ago at the first budget session. I'm of the mind that we can leave it where it is.
Okay.
I don't know, Commissioner Chismar, if what your thoughts are on that, but after spending more time thinking about it, I feel comfortable with the estimate that you put together.
I remember you increased from the original estimate, or you're saying.
So we expressed concern that the legal budget might not be high enough.
Right, because the rates went up by 9%, but the
Right.
budget went actually,
Down.
line went down.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So upon reflecting what you shared with us and getting your number, I feel comfortable with the number that you have.
Okay.
But that's just me, I'm just one
Yep.
of 5.
You mean I can't remember what,
So if you look at number 4 on the outstanding
Right.
list, when I did this, and I don't think we've gotten any additional, no, we haven't. Based on the amount we spent to date, which was through February, it's about $83,500. Basing on that, my estimate for FY '25 would be $123,499. The rate increase is 9%, so if you added 9% onto the $123,499, you got $136,521. The budget I put together was $129, so you're talking about a $6,500 difference. In all honesty,
right,
no disrespect, but legal budget is a crapshoot.
right.
You just don't know. I mean, seriously, you just don't know.
No, I'm fine with leaving it as is.
I mean, I can certainly increase it, but we can just wait on it too and see what happens in the fiscal year.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm good with it.
all right. I'll put,
And the number that we're potentially increasing it by isn't a huge number in terms of the overall
Yeah.
budget,
Correct,
so.
correct.
So, right.
yes, yeah, if we were talking
6,500.
tens of thousands of dollars,
Right.
might be a different thing.
Exactly. All right, I'm gonna add, we're gonna leave it alone then, and that'll be done. Anything else that you all want to discuss this evening?
Just to reiterate on 11 and 12, I think we should just leave those bike lanes alone, which would be $60,000. And that would more than cover the additional 25 that we are looking for the fire department. Would that be correct, Lisa?
Yes. I think we were leaning towards, or the conversation was leaning towards number 11, certainly waiting until FY '27. But if I remember right, number 12 was, that went through planning commission. So I think
Correct.
that muddies things a little bit, and
I
so
remember
that might-
Kevin saying, we may have to go to the planning commission to tell them that we're not going to be proceeding with bike lanes, and so that they should not require it from the developer at the mall, because it would then be a short road to nowhere. Or actually, this is the other one, the
Yeah,
McPhail
this
Road.
is 12.
Yeah, the McPhail Road.
So I guess all I'm saying this evening is you may want to talk to Kevin further.
Yeah, I'm just
On
pointing
number
out that
12.
we've got $60,000 that we have been contemplating not spending,
Mhm.
which would more than cover the 25,000 that we're looking for in the budget.
Because you also have number 13, which I think you all also were leaning on not doing, if I remember correctly.
I only didn't mention that one because we're waiting to hear from a couple other property
Correct.
owners. But it doesn't look like, if one property owner is opposed, it
Mhm.
may be
Which
that
is
the,
a significant property in terms of, where the path is gonna go.
right.
Mhm.
And I completely understand why the property owner would feel that way. So definitely, I would be leaning towards not spending that now $70,000.
I agree, Mayor.
We can make a final determination
Yes.
once Kevin is here
Yes.
next week, and we can
Correct.
have a
Absolutely. But
robust conversation, but I
But
am
since all
also in
five
that
of
same
us,
boat. Yeah,
since all five of us were present, I just thought I would just review those couple of things where we
absolutely,
seem to be leaning in that direction.
Yeah. Is everyone here next Tuesday?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. Because all I will ask is next Tuesday, before I let you walk out the door, is that we decide
Right.
on what you all want to do. I am perfectly fine with, you saying to me, well, making the numbers up, we need $50,000 and we only have 30. Lisa, figure out where the other 20 is gonna come from. I'm not looking at having that discussion. I mean, yes, if it's $50,000 or $100,000, that's a totally different story. But I do have some avenues that will get back to a balanced budget. But I just need direction from you all as a group. I know everything is tentative that night, but it just allows me to put the final budget together for you all for the following Monday.
And that's why I mentioned these couple of things.
appreciate
Just to see
that.
that there's five of us and we're still leaning in that direction. Or, we be thinking about it, because I
Mhm.
know that the window is closing. We need to
It is,
make some decisions, so.
it is.
Yeah, and while we're on that topic, I mean, I tend to think that item number 11, that we definitely have 3 votes to say no to doing that in 2026. And we were going to kick the can to 27.
Right.
Yeah, you got 4 with me on
I
that.
agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah,
way
I-
behind on their
yeah.
stuff. They're not gonna do anything next year, so.
So, I mean, I think, Lisa, you could count on the number
Okay.
11 being struck and
Okay.
not denied per se, but
Yeah,
kick the
Delayed.
can, delay, the decision delayed till
Delayed.
2027. 27, and that resolves the issue with regard to any communication with the planning commission. It's just not being funded this year. And then I think that's easy enough done because nothing's going forward yet on the construction
Right.
over there. I mean, the ground's been broken.
Okay.
And as to 13, I just want to say, look, if the one property owner is saying, hey, I'm objecting, I'm not interested in spending the $10,000. Because I don't think it's like, I don't want to view it as a majority vote on polling the other property owners. If 3 want it and 1 doesn't, I mean, this is a big deal to a property owner to have a trail there, so.
I agree with you,
So
Mr.
I
Wallace.
think
I
on
think the other-
13, we could say 13 is going to be out also.
I think probably the
I
other
agree.
3 are not going to be in favor of it either, is
Yeah.
what I'm probably, think is going to be the end result.
You know, so I mean, I would be, so I think I would be fine with Director Moody counting on saying, hey, I can count on 10,000 from item 13, and I can count on 40,000 from item 11. And then we can talk further when Kevin's here on 12.
That sounds good.
Does that
Right.
make sense to everybody?
Yep,
Sounds like a plan.
Anybody?
works for me.
Okay. Anything else? So I did not hear, just so you all know, I did not hear back from the Harford County Education Foundation. They are on the list.
Did we talk about the Independence Day Committee?
You know, it's funny, I checked my emails, because I really thought Don had confirmed, and he did, but I didn't.
I just realized we never got to
No,
that.
I know.
Thank you
Wha-
for pointing that
Yeah.
out.
I'll send him an email and see if he wants to come in on the 13th.
And
Okay.
we do all have the letter from them, which is on page 192, which asks for the same amount that they got last year,
Yep.
no increase.
Okay, well, I'm a little less concerned about it than, you know, that's
Than you
that's
would
probably
otherwise have
fine,
been,
yeah.
But I will reach out to
But yes,
to
always
Dawn
nice to
just
invite
as
them.
a
Just to-
courtesy.
Exactly.
So Tuesday, we'll have Melinda from Lassos. But I never got a email response back from Harford County Education Foundation. And the 13th was the designated meeting date. So I'll reach out one more time to her. But those are our 2 outside organizations. And then, of course, we'll have the 2 enterprise funds. Special revenue will be pretty quick, and then we'll get into this. All righty, that's all we have.
All right. Anything else? In that case, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
And do I have a second?
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.